What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Taylor Hinton Speaks His Mind, the number one online health and fitness podcast for millennials in the world. And I'm going to start off by apologizing for anybody who's watching this on Instagram or YouTube because I didn't turn my light on because it's 5:30 in the morning. I don't normally record podcasts at 5:30, but I'm normally up around 4:30. And I just had something coming to my mind, and I decided, you know what? The best way to get this out is to just share it right away. And transparently, I'm waiting for my headphones to charge up before I go to the gym, which is going to be part of my new routine, getting it done early in the morning. And so today, what I figured I would do while I'm waiting for my headphones to charge and chilling and not wanting to have a big bright light smashing in my face at 5:30 was to break down for you guys the most reliable ways for you to see progress. In fact, it's not just a list of things that you should be checking off. What I'm going to break down for you is exactly what you should be doing over the next 6 weeks to see the most progress in the gym and it be the most reliable way for you to see that progress. So I'm just going to get right into it. I took some notes for you guys. This isn't scripted out. I don't want to have this drag out into this super long, needlessly long video or audible for you. So let's get right into it. What you need to consider is going into each one of your not just workouts each week, but segmenting your workouts into different training blocks, meaning that you're not just week to week going to the gym and today is leg day, so I'm going to do legs, and today is upper, so I'm going to do upper. You need to have each one of your workouts throughout the week, they combine into multiple different training blocks. So that means that one block will be a 6 week training block. It's going to be 6 weeks worth of workouts. And through that 6 weeks, you have a specific goal and aim that you're trying to work towards, understanding that week 6 is actually not much of a progressive week. In fact, what we're going to do is we're going to deload on week 6, meaning we're going to intentionally cut back on intensity and volume so that we can allow your central nervous system to fully recover, allowing you to come back into week 7 with a lot more energy, a lot more neural drive, and ensure that you're seeing the most progress that you can. Okay. So, how should you organize your workouts? There's a million different ways. And I'll preface the rest of this video or audio by saying this. The assumption that I'm making here is you have some level of experience in the gym. I want to say that you've been going to the gym for at least 3 or more likely 6 months. If you have at least 3 months, but more likely 6, then this is going to be something that you're definitely going to want to do. In fact, everything I'm going to share here is going to be great for beginners and more advanced people from a holistic, or I should say maybe a philosophical standpoint. There'll be a couple things here that you may want to consider changing up slightly if you're a beginner. In terms of intensity, you may need to start off with your first few months with having your intensity relatively low because you're a deconditioned individual, i.e., you haven't been weight training for a long time. So basically, just sniffing weights is going to make you get really sore the next day. My point is, if you're brand new to lifting weights, your muscles haven't yet adapted to the intensity of those movements. And even if you lifted weights for a week in the gym at really low intensities and you left the workout thinking, wow, this was really easy, you're going to be sore the next day. Okay. If you're a beginner. So the idea for this is for people who are a little bit beyond that beginner stage at the very least. So here's what you're going to do. You pick, you decide. I don't care. And I'm not here to tell you what to do with this one, with this part at least. You pick how many days a week you're going to go to the gym. If you want to make progress, you need to be going at least 3 days a week. And let me say this, if you're going 3 days a week, you better be really fucking dialed in with your training routine, with your sleep, your nutrition. You have way less opportunity to fuck around. Because if you were going 5 or 6 days a week and you somehow also were strategically really, really good with your sleep and nutrition and all that stuff, which you absolutely would need to be as well, then you could have more flexibility on your calories and you could afford to push those numbers higher a few days a week, assuming you were intending to lose some fat. So you're normally in a calorie deficit. If you're training 5 or 6 days a week, then you could probably get away with having a few hundred calories more 1 or 2 days a week and still lose weight. right? But my point is if you're only going to go to the gym 3 days a week, then one, those sessions are going to likely need to be longer than if you were going 5 or more days. And your nutrition, your step count, your sleep, everything needs to be super, super dialed in, right? You would be expected to make a greater effort outside the gym to continue staying active. Maybe you need to push for 12 or 15,000 steps a day, assuming again the goal is calorie deficit for weight loss. But somebody who's going 5, 6 days a week, which again, I don't necessarily recommend, but if that person was going 5 or 6 days a week, they may not need to get as many steps in. Okay. So just have some consideration around those things. But if you want to make progress in terms of building muscle, or for anyone else, here's this is what if any of these words or terms resonate with you, then you're all on the same page. Okay. Toning, sculpting, building muscle, getting huge, adding mass, being stronger, having more definition, being more powerful. If any one of those terms resonates with you, then this is going to be for you. As you could probably tell, I covered some feminine terms like definition. Well, that's not purely feminine, but you know what I mean. Toning, sculpting, right? And then some of the guys, their ears perked up when I said building mass, getting huge, those things. Physiologically, we're pretty much the exact fucking same, guys and girls. Okay. If you want to build muscle, you follow these principles. If you want to lose fat, you actually follow the same principles in terms of the exercise component for the most part. Slight variations, maybe, but it's not slight variations to help somehow magically boost fat burning. In fact, it would actually be slight variations to help improve on your ability to recover better. Okay. Because if you're having way less food, then you have less resources to pull from for the recovery aspect of your fitness. Recovery, and a bit of a detour, but this is all relevant for you. Your recovery is predicated on two important things: how much sleep you're able to get and the quality of your sleep, as well as how many calories and the quality of the calories you're consuming. If either one of those are down, your body is going to upregulate systems in your body on in the other direction, or the other resource department for increasing recovery, so that it can get back to baseline. So all that means is if you only slept 4 hours last night, today you can expect to be hungry as fuck because you didn't recover well enough. And if you're awake and you're refusing to go to sleep, your body's going to say, fine, give me some more food so that I can actually get through the rest of this day. And so it's going to upregulate your hunger. Okay. And the opposite is true as well. If you are overeating, you're eating way more food than you need, then you may have a harder time going to sleep and getting to sleep because you just have so much food and resources available. Now, this can teeter back and forth between having so much energy from having a lot of food, or having so much energy and feeling like totally zonked and needing to take a nap after eating, because I felt that way before too. My point is, you want to have a good sleep and nutrition regimen in place. Just because we're going to focus almost exclusively here on the training aspect of things doesn't mean that you can't optimize your results by ensuring your sleep and nutrition is on point. So if you want to make progress, then you need to go at least 3 days a week in the gym. Everything needs to be super dialed in to ensure that you're maximizing on those very few windows of time that you're actually going to be weight training. Going 4 days a week, I think, is most optimal in terms of lifestyle and results for people, because you can get all muscle groups, particularly the major ones that are going to give you the greatest bang for your buck. Each one of those muscle groups can get hit at least twice a week, which is optimal for your actual muscle protein synthesis, your body's ability to trigger the muscles to uptake more protein and recover and grow. Okay. But 5 and 6 days a week works as well. So you have to start off by picking how many days a week you're going to go to the gym and ask yourself, can I stick with this for the next 6 months? Okay. Whether you follow the plan for the next 6 months or not is up to you, but you have to be confident in thinking, okay, I can actually stick to this many sessions per week for the next 6 months. anticipating what my schedule is going to look like. We've got a move coming up, or I've got a job change, or maybe we got a baby on the way. Things like that. Be considerate of what your lifestyle is going to be like, and don't bite off more than you can chew, because it's much, much better for you to scale down your frequency of gym sessions and stick with it and have a reliable plan that works really well, rather than bite off more than you can chew and constantly somehow magically find yourself skipping leg day. Okay. So after you've established how many sessions you're going to do in the gym, I do not drink energy drinks, but local supplement company had one of their big annual sales, and they were giving out these little bags with a ton of different free products, and there was an energy drink in here, and I've been saving this for about a week at this point, um, because I'm planning on doing my workouts in the morning. So I got 160 mil of caffeine or milligrams, yeah, of caffeine straight to the dome. And I know a lot of pre-workout fanatics are going to be like, "That's some pussy shit." Whatever, I don't care. Um, Okay, so you've established how many sessions you're going to have in the gym. Okay. Now, here's the next step. And this is honestly, this is the one topic of this conversation that triggered me to want to record this right away. It was, how many reps should I be doing in the gym to build muscle? Okay, without me going into too much depth, because the purpose of this pod, I'll say this. You can build muscle in a variety of different ways. There are almost endless ways for you to build muscle. In fact, I think a lot of people accidentally build muscle in the gym. Not maybe not accidentally, because their intention is to build muscle, but they do it not because of their programming, but because of how stubborn they are and how consistent they are. I see, as a fitness coach who has been training and following structured routines with my weight training program since I was 11 years old, I have seen countless amounts of really good looking, fit people who you might look at the gym and think, damn, they got it all figured out. It is, I cannot count how many times in the last, it's going to be 21, it's going to be 20 years pretty soon here. My birthday's coming up in like 2 weeks. It's crazy. I'll be 31. So since I was 11, now 31, endless amounts of people who visually look really good and relative to your average person are in excellent shape. They're much stronger and fitter and have extended their lifespan and health span beyond any average person. Not because of their routine, in spite of their routine. The one constant that every single one of these individuals has, even if they truly don't know virtually anything about fitness and exercise, is they are so goddamn consistent. Like, you've got these meatheads who go to the gym and believe the most outrageous bullshit from the 80s and 90s and early 2000s that has been completely debunked or has been proven time and time and time again to not be most efficient or most effective or to be purely true at all. But at the very least, these motherfuckers know that you have to be consistent and you have to push really hard. So, to the average eye watching these people and work out, they may think, damn, this person's got it all figured out. But to somebody who has virtually any level of reasonable experience in the gym, they'll watch these people and think, damn, that motherfucker could be even more jacked, or that chick could look even better if she knew what she was doing, because god damn it, they are absolutely clueless. And I'm telling you, these are people who are like the fittest, best looking people in your gym and are super consistent and lift really heavy and have a lot of confidence. They'll have the most dog shit technique or approach to their routine that I've ever seen in my life, but they still get amazing results, which for you should be really, really exciting, because you're spending your time listening to me talk about fitness when you could be doing anything else right now. Maybe you're driving in the car and you have limited options, but you chose to listen to this. So clearly you have your head on straight. There's me being a little bit of an egomaniac, huh? Right? But clearly this is important to you and you are trying to educate yourself and learn what's either more efficient, more optimal, or whatever. So the sheer fact that you're doing this alone, I know puts you a leg up over those people who have decades of experience in the gym and are the fittest, most jacked people in the world in your eyes or the average person's eyes. Because if they listen to any of these things that I'm sharing, they would be like, oh my God, I've completely done everything backwards for so long. So back to how to build muscle and what is the most appropriate rep range for you to build muscle in. The true answer, if we were to look at the literature, is that you could build muscle up to 30 reps on average. Like anywhere between 1 and 30 repetitions has been proven to build muscle. And you know what? The differences between 1 to 5 reps or 6 to 10 reps or the magic 8 to 12, and then again, even all the way up to 30, the differences in the scientific literature and how much muscle is being built is very, very small. In fact, it's almost unrecognizable. So to the naked eye, to your average Joe Blow like us, who are just trying to build a little bit more, sculpt, tone, add size, have more definition, right? The sculpting and toning and definition parts include a combination of diet and exercise, of course, where mass or just getting jacked would be purely just eat enough calories and lift really heavy like a monkey and you'll get there, right? But either way, the principles of the training philosophy remain the same. And the training philosophy that works, so the undisputed thing that must be there is tension. Tension on the muscle. It's not how many sets you're doing. It's not how many reps you're doing. It's not even your tempo and how slow and controlled you're taking the negative, which is something that I've preached for a very long time. And it is still a very key factor that will help boost your growth and strength. But is it absolute? Is it absolute? Is it an absolute requirement? And the reality is the answer is no. Because you'll look at these giant gym monkeys or these chicks who have the nicest asses, if you're a girl, whatever that body is that you're aspiring to, and you can watch people have, again, this absolute dog shit technique where they're swinging the weights around, but they're building muscle. So how? It's because what we're trying to do here, and this is generally my approach when it comes to fitness as a whole, but what we're trying to do is determine what is absolutely non-negotiable. So knowing that there are people who have built a lot of muscle over years and look great and they're really strong, do all of them have excellent control of the negative component of each repetition? Does their eccentric control look absolutely immaculate all the time? And the answer is no, because there's some people who sling around weights like a motherfucker, but they're still building muscle, even though they're using some momentum. So unfortunately, we can't say that tempo is a mandatory thing. Is it beneficial? Absolutely. It's better to do it with better control. You're going to get more progress, but is it necessary to make any progress? The answer is no. So we have to wipe that away. What about sets? No. Reps? No. Rest period? No. Again, tempo? No. Range of motion? No. None of those things are essential. The one thing that is absolutely essential is tension. What does tension mean? It means how much demand how much neural and muscular demand are we placing on the body? I don't think that using muscular was the proper term. Neurological was, though. How much neural demand are we placing on the body for that set? If you are, and this is going to be more perceptive, right? But if you are at a 10 out of 10 on intensity, the tension is so great. Picking up the weight before you even start lifting it, you grab it and you have to start bracing automatically. You're not thinking about brace my core. Your body naturally seizes up because you picked up that big heavy weight. Hey, guess what? whatever you're about to do with that weight is going to be, you're going to create some serious tension. Okay. So tension is the number one thing. So if we know that tension is the number one thing, then we have to ask ourselves, how can we practically apply as much tension as we can to the muscle for an exercise? What do you think? Okay, I want you to do this in your head while you're listening to me. What do you think is going to be easier to determine if you're using a lot of tension or not enough tension? Is it when you're doing 30 repetitions? Let's use bicep curl as something we can all visualize in our head. If you're doing 30 reps of bicep curls, are you going to create more tension? Or is it at 5 reps of bicep curls? Which one do you think is going to be easier for you to determine if your tension is max at the highest level of tension? Is it with 5 repetitions or is it at 30 repetitions? If we're focusing on tension, we have to assume that the weight is great enough to physically slow down the repetition by the last few repetitions. Meaning that, like, does your first rep and your last rep look the same? If we were to just film you, does it look at the same speed and intensity and effort? If your first rep of bicep curls and your 30th rep of bicep curls look virtually the same, or maybe you're doing the standard 3 sets of 10. If your first and your 10th rep look the same, whether you tell me or not, oh, I feel it, the burn, it hurts. The burn also is not an absolute. It's not a mandatory requirement. In fact, a lot of times it's a false positive. When people feel the burn in their muscle, they stop the set because they say, okay, well, the muscle is burning, so I've stimulated it. Okay, that'll work for a little bit. And that's why I preface this by saying, if you have at least 3 to 6 months of training experience, because in the beginning, you do anything at all and you're going to see progress. You get a bit of muscle burn. Hey, that's a novel experience for your body. You're going to see some progress. But over time, that muscle burn, it's literally just a signal that says, owie. It doesn't actually stimulate progress anymore. Your body's used to getting the burn. The burn doesn't mean anything anymore. So is it easier to determine at 30 repetitions or 5 repetitions? The answer is 5. Because you can't all of a sudden just your next set decide, I'm going to lift this for 10 reps now. Because if you could barely do it for 5, that means that the weight was really fucking heavy. So the likelihood of you being able to get to 10 is virtually 0. You're not going to get there on the next set, on set 2. So if tension is the absolute that we have to account for, what do you think is going to happen if you were to set your reps at, let's pick a number that's pretty reasonable. Let's say 15, right? A lot of people might say, yeah, like 10 to 15 reps is perfect for building muscle. Okay, sure. Let's go with that theory for a second. What do you think might happen before you hit muscle failure, that mechanical tension? What might happen before the tension is so great that the weight won't come up anymore? Well, that burning sensation is likely going to set in. And your lungs, especially if you're deeper in the workout, you might be getting just your cardiovascular might fail before the actual muscle does, where you just feel so physically tired that you have to rest. Did the muscle come to failure or did your lungs come to failure? Did the muscle just burn so bad that you felt like you needed to stop because it was just so painful? Or did you reach actual muscle failure? Muscle failure will come from the tension being so great that the muscles cannot contract fast enough and hard enough to move the weight from point A to point B anymore. So I say all this to help you understand that it's easier for you to reach that peak muscle tension and make that the limiting factor when you're operating from a relatively lower rep range. Because both 6 reps and 20 reps, they can yield the exact same result. But are you sure that if you're doing 20 reps, that you're stopping at 20 because the weight won't come up anymore, or because it just hurts really bad and you want to break? Because if you're stopping when it hurts really bad and you want to break, but the muscle could keep going harder for a couple more reps, then you're leaving massive gains on the table. You're leaving so much opportunity on the table. And that can be infuriating because here, before I started doing this, I was a manager at the gym. Okay. I did it for 3.5 years and I watched the same people walk in and out all the time. And there were a very, very few select people that I ever saw look like they made a difference in that 3.5 years. So many people go to the gym, put time and energy and effort and take resources away from their family, from themselves to go to the gym with the intention of making progress, either losing body fat, increasing strength, energy, whatever it is. And after the first 6 to 12 months, they stop seeing progress. The progress is minimal, and then they stop seeing progress, and then they get frustrated, and they just eventually accept where they're at and say, you know what? It's just my genetics. I just don't have enough time. I'm just a little bit too old. It's just, I'm not built for building muscle. I'm built to be a little bit heavier, or I'm built to be a little bit more petite, and they just can't do it. No, you're probably just not following a very structured plan, and you don't know the difference between muscle failure, i.e., max mechanical tension in the muscle, or this hurts really bad, so I like to take a break. Okay. And that's not me dogging anybody, because the muscle burn is fucking painful. It sucks. But if the muscle can keep lifting the weight, even though it hurts really bad, then you need to keep lifting that weight if you want to make progress. Kind of tough to keep doing that when it's your muscles are screaming at you to take a break. How do you know for sure? You know for sure if you're lifting weights that are so heavy that you literally cannot lift them more than 6 to 10 repetitions. In fact, you could go lower. You could go 5 to 8 as a rep range. That would be great. 5 to 8 is great. Haha. Okay. So now we know that we want to lift generally on the heavier end with less repetitions. Makes it easier for us to determine, yep, for sure, that wasn't just a burn. That was my muscles quit on me. Good. We want that. Okay. Now, when you're setting your reps, I kind of touched on this, I briefly kind of brushed against it just now, is a rep range. I talked about 5 to 8. I talked about 6 to 10. Why not just say, hey, at 6, let's just stop at 6. Let's just pick weights that are so heavy that at 6 we have to stop, and stop thinking about this rep range. And why do we need a rep range? Well, we need a rep range because we need to give ourselves a little bit of wiggle room to be able to progress. Because over time, in the beginning, it may not be, it's going to be much clearer and easier for you to just pick one specific number, like 3 sets of 10. And then cool, you've found over the first couple weeks, you figured out what weight is perfect for you to hit that perfect muscle failure at 10. But over time, you can't just say, okay, I'm going to just do 11 reps, or okay, I'm just going to add 5 more pounds this week. In the beginning, you can do that because your body is very deconditioned, and it's easy to see a lot of progress really early. But over time, as you get stronger and more conditioned, and you've been doing this for 20 plus years like myself, you have to be able to find ways to creatively push progress forward ever so slightly without making monumental jumps, because you physically can't make those big jumps anymore. And I'm talking about, adding 5 pounds on your bench will eventually be a monumental jump. Adding 5 pounds to your back squat or Romanian deadlift will eventually be a really, really big jump for you. So we still want to try to add more weight, but adding 5 more pounds might be the difference between you being able to get 6 reps and 10 reps, because the weight is so demanding. Okay. So, a rep range is really important. When you are picking your rep range, again, 5 to 8 or 6 to 10 is ideal. What you're going to try to do is you're going to try to pick over the first couple of weeks, because it's going to take time, new workout plan, new movements, whatever. It's going to take you a little bit of time to figure out exactly how much weight you can lift on the lower rep range. So again, let's use the 6 to 10 option. We want to pick a weight that we believe we can hit muscle failure around rep 6 if the goal is to hit to 6 to 10, because that means that instead of asking yourself to always just lift heavier over time, which would be the goal, but you can also increase the repetitions per set, right? Because if you are, let's say you're doing 3 sets and it's 6 to 10. In set 1, this is, week 4. So for sure that 30 pounds is going to you're going to hit failure at 6. Cool. That means in week 4, or did I say week 4? Maybe the next week, whatever, it doesn't matter. The next week, instead of adding 5 more pounds, going to 35 pounds, because you're already at 6 reps, right? And you hit failure the week before at 6, which is at the bottom range. You don't really want to dip below for the purpose of this exercise. You don't want to dip below 6. So can we go another 5 pounds heavier? Maybe, but also maybe not. So instead of going 5 pounds heavier, you have this range. You have this option to still be able to go to 6 reps, 7 reps, 8 reps, 9 reps, 10 reps. So instead of lifting heavier to increase that tension or to progress your muscle further, go from 6 reps to 7 reps. That's generally going to be an easier progression than adding another 5 pounds and asking your body to lift the same amount of reps, especially for all 3 sets or 4 sets or 5 sets. The more sets you have, the more challenging it will be for you to add more weight and maintain that minimum rep standard of 6. So in week 4, you're doing 6 reps. In week 5, you're doing 7 reps. In week 8, you're doing 8 reps, and so on and so forth until, here's the kicker, until all sets can be completed at the high end of the rep range, at which point now it's time for you to lift heavier weight. So you could realistically not lift any heavier weight for 5 weeks or more as long as you're adding one more rep. Because if you can add one more rep, then you've just made more progress. You've just asked your body to do more than it did the week before. You're asking it to adapt to the new training stimulus. Excellent. Progress achieved. Very reliable way for you to determine that you've made progress. Okay. As an example for me, a couple weeks ago, I'm doing a pin bench press where I bring the barbell. It's just a bench press, but I have the safety bars set around midway through my full range of motion. And I let the bar briefly come to a dead stop on the safety bars and then press back up. So it's basically a shortened range bench press. And in a previous week, so I'm doing 5 sets of 5. In a previous week, I did my first 4 sets at 5 repetitions. And then somehow my 5th set, I only was able to get 4. I almost got the 5th rep. I got so close. I was actually so bewildered that I wasn't able to get the 5th rep, but I didn't. So my set or my workout went like this. 4 sets of 5, 1 set of 4 to be a complete 5 sets. So I stuck to the same weight the following week, and I was able to do all 5 sets at 5 repetitions. Yay me. I just made progress. Very reliable way to see that I made that progress. Cool. So for you, start at imagine 30 pounds, and you can barely get 6 for all 3 sets. Excellent. Next week, you may go 7, 7. So your first 2 sets, 7 reps, 7 reps, and then 6. Cool. You just added 2 more reps than you did the previous week. You've just made progress. And then the week after that, 7, 7, 7. The week after that, 8, 8, 7. The week after that, 8, 8, 8. The week after that, 9, 9, 8. 9, 9, 9 the week after that, right? All of that right there is showing you that you can make progress. And because you have that rep range, you have a really nice little safety net to allow you to keep pushing. Now, eventually, all 3 sets at the high rep range, 10, 10, 10. Cool. What do we do from here? Well, we don't want to do more reps because we have the 6 to 10 range. Now it's time for you to go to the 35 pound and anticipate that your reps are going to have to come down as well. You're not going to just decide to bring the reps down. You're still always going to be pushing to muscle failure or very, very close within 1 to 2 repetitions of muscle failure. Okay. And now that means that if you've decided to pick up heavier weight at 35 pounds, you can definitely get 6 reps for all 3 sets at minimum. You might get more even too. We'll see. But that's how you can scale your progress forward. Set a rep range, pick weights that demand muscle failure at the lower end of the rep range, build the reps up until you get to the higher rep range over multiple weeks, and then take a bit of a rest. So we'll talk about that in a second. That's a deload week. Come back the week after with heavier weights and push as hard as you can, still within the rep range, but likely at the lower end. Build the reps up over time, rinse and repeat. Okay. So this is how you should approach this. And this is where we're kind of wrap things up for you a little bit. In weeks 1 to 2, what I would suggest you do is only do 2 sets. Okay. Only do 2 sets of each exercise. And in fact, on top of that, I think you should actually only do 3 exercises that you're doing in your working sets. So what I mean is, and my clients will know this, but in the, the beginning of the workout plan, if I'm creating a plan for you, your first two exercises are a warm up. They're indicated as such, and they're a superset. So you're not going to failure, obviously. What we're trying to do is generally just warm the body up. So for my clients, if I'm telling them, hey, we're only going to be doing three exercises, they're actually going to see five because they'll see two warm up exercises, which might be some type of mobility combined with some abs, get the heart rate up, get the abs going because no one likes doing abs at the end of the workout, and get the primary joints warmed up and lubricated by doing some mobility stuff. So low intensity and quick paced, get the heart rate up, right? That's a great warm up. And then you get into your three exercises. So if you were doing, and I'll do this real quick. If you were doing 3 days a week, your workout might look like on day one, bench press, box squat, and Romanian deadlift. Day two might be incline dumbbell bench press, a front squat, and a trap bar deadlift. And then finally on day three, you may have a dumbbell fly, you may have a pull up, and then you may also have a single leg Romanian deadlift or walking lunge. And I'm going to pause as I go wake my dog up from dreaming right now because she's pretty loud barking in her sleep. Yeah, so we have a condo and technically not supposed to have dogs, but that's another story. And she dreams. She doesn't bark ever, like in real life, I guess. But when she's sleeping, she dreams so much, and she's having her little whimpers and cries, and we'll throw a bark in there every now and then. So yeah, I got to try to nip that in the bud as much as we can. Um, so you should really just do three exercises, okay? In your first two weeks, you're only doing two sets, which is really nice because your workouts are going to be shorter, and because you're only doing two sets, you know that you're not going to be leaving reps in the tank. Like you're not leaving anything on set one or set two because this is going to be fucking hard. Like you're going to be pushing yourself really hard because you only have two sets and it's only three exercises. You're going to be in and you're going to be out. Okay. What this is doing on a subconscious level is showing you that you're actually a lot stronger than you think. And you should probably push yourself a little bit harder than you think you can because most people don't know how to push themselves properly. Most people think that they're working really hard, but they're just getting that muscle burn or their lungs are getting tired or they've broken a sweat. And for whatever reason, they have been taught or for think somehow that is they've now achieved some progress. And that's not necessarily the case. It requires that tension. So if you're only doing two sets, you better bring a lot of fucking juice to each one of those sets. Week one and two, two sets. Weeks 3 to 5, add 1 to 2 more sets. Same workout program, same exercises, same rep range, but you're just adding a bit more volume. You're asking your body to do a little bit more. And rather than doing more weight or more reps right away, because now you have to try to calculate for that and make a judgment call on, okay, should I lift more? Or can I do more? Should I go with more repetitions right away? Can I even do more repetitions right away? Adding more sets is a reliable way for you to boost your overall volume and capacity. It's you because in week one and two, if you're doing two sets, and then in week five, you're doing four sets, you're literally doubling the workout. You're doing twice as much work. That is a massive stimulus. That's going to provide you with incredible progress. But you can't just keep adding more weight or more reps or more sets every single week. That's why week 1 to 2, two sets. Weeks 3 to 5, you're adding 1 to 2 more sets, same exercises. So now every exercise is at least three, but up to four sets. And then in week 6, you're going to take a deload. And this is where we're going to finish things. Your deload week is your strategic break from intensity to allow your central nervous system, not just muscles, but that means bones, ligaments, tendons, joints to also recover, as well as your brain, right? Your brain is taking a massive hit every time you train. It can be very fatiguing. It's very demanding on the brain and body when you lift heavy weights. So on week 6, what you're going to do is you're going to go back to just two sets and you're going to pick a lighter relative weight. You may even pick weights that are slightly lighter than what you did in your first 2 weeks when you first started the training plan. So if in week 1, you did two sets, 30 pounds, and by week 5, your peak week, we'll call it, of most intensity, you're now doing four sets. You're now doing 40 pounds Now your sets, your reps, your weights have all increased between week 1 and week 5. Those 5 weeks building up intensity over time is slowly accumulating more fatigue in your brain and body. Your muscles might feel recovered when you go to the gym in week 6. Your muscles still feel like you had 2 days off on the weekend. It's Monday again. You feel ready to go. The muscles feel fresh, but you have to remember muscles recover much much faster than bones, ligaments, tendons, joints, and your central nervous system. Your whole brain and body is working beyond just that 1 hour workout. It has 24 other hours of the day where it has demand placed on it, even when you're sleeping. Like your respiratory system, everything is still operating at a baseline low level. So over time, what you're doing is you're slowly building more and more fatigue. And if you don't take a strategic break, then one, you're going to see your progress totally stall out and you're going to get really frustrated because you feel fresh when you go do your workouts, but your nervous system, your nerves are just not firing the way that they were in week 1 and 2. So if you're trying in week 6 to push even harder and do more and you're not making more progress, you feel stalled out, it's not because you're overtraining or something like that. It's just that your body just needs a little bit more rest. So go back down to 2 sets, bring the intensity down. It should feel like a light working set or an intense warm up set, you could say, where you're going nice and slow and controlled, a little bit more slow than normal. You're feeling a really good stretch, controlling the weight. That's the focus. You finish the set feeling fresh still. You feel like you could have done maybe 5 more reps. Um, and you finish the whole workout thinking, damn, that was pretty easy. You're leaving feeling like you left a lot on the table before you walked out, and that's good because you want to do that for the entire rest of that week. That means in week 7 you can come back with the same intensity that you did in week 1 and weeks 1 to 5, and then repeat that process of slowly building the weights back up. But now in week 7, you're obviously not lifting weights that you did in week 1 because your body's strong enough to do that. And that would be like negligible at this point. So you have to come back to the week 5 weights or a little bit heavier. And you may even go back down in sets. So week 6 is a deload with only 2 sets. And then week 7, you might also only do 2 sets. But now you're picking up heavier weights than you did in week 5 in the peak of that first training block because it's gonna be you're only doing 2 sets, so you can lift heavier because you don't have that much neural demand or load on the muscle. So if week 5 you finished at 45 pounds, week 6 your deload you come down to 25 in only 2 sets. Feels really manageable, really easy. You focus on controlling the weight, and then in week 7 you go up to 50 pounds. Haven't touched this weight yet. Only 2 sets. You do that for 7 and 8, and then again in weeks 9 to 11, you're doing more volume. So you add more sets with those heavy weights. And the goal is still try to work your way up slowly to the higher end of the rep range and try to lift a little bit heavier if possible. One or the other is likely going to be the case, not both. And then finally in week 12, you're finishing your second training block with another deload week. And that is the most reliable way for you to make progress in the gym. You do not need 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 exercises in one workout. It's junk volume. Going from, if you were doing a back day and you're doing 6 exercises, the likelihood that you're kind of just doing the same movement pattern with a different exercise name is very high. And now you're just spending more time walking around in the gym, going to different shit. You're never really getting a great mind muscle connection because the movements are just slightly ever so different. So you're moving heavyweight, but are you really doing it with a lot of intention and intensity? Is your mind muscle connection really, really solid with that exercise? Probably not. Not if you're trying to adapt and learn 6 different exercises rather than just 2 for the same muscle group. Bent over row and strict pull ups, or bent over row and machine assisted pull ups or lat pull downs. You got a vertical pull, you got a horizontal pull. Awesome. There's a million different variations, and each one of them is going to offer a little bit more nuance, a little bit more emphasis on this muscle of the back or that muscle of the back. But will that make more progress for you over just doing the same basic movement but getting really good at that, really feeling that muscle group working and creating a massive mind muscle connection where you're so connected to that exercise that you know exactly how to squeeze every single muscle in there. And over time, you're lifting heavier and heavier and heavier. That will always net you better results. It will. Because sure, you're not targeting this specific muscle of the back, but that doesn't mean that just because you're not targeting it, that it's not getting work. It's still getting plenty of work. And the data is clear. If you lift heavy fucking weight with a lot of intensity, it's all going to grow. If you're doing a really, really heavy bent over row, then the little muscles that you think you want to try to target with this special exercise you saw on Instagram, those muscles are getting work too. They're not getting targeted, but that also means that the big muscle groups that surround that, that are actually going to be the primary movers of that exercise, they're, if you're using those little new, those fancy little exercises that target this and target that and all this targeting all the time, you're effectively just adding more volume. You're doing weights, right? You're lifting weights, you're spending the time, you're in the gym, you're doing it. But is it really your best bang for buck over just doing one exercise that you can lift a big ass weight with and know reliably that not just the small muscle groups are getting worked, but the big ones are too, and everything overall is getting fatigued and tired and stimulated? There you go. Pick that. Get really, really good at 2 exercises per muscle group. Focus on those, progress those ones, and everything will fall into place. Now, here's my standard for women specifically, because I primarily coach women. The standard is 5 bodyweight pull-ups, 1/3 of your total body weight in each hand for dumbbell walking lunges for 10 reps. Okay. So let me break that down real quick. That's if you're a woman and you're 150 pounds, for example. I'm going to multiply that by 0.33 for 30% or a third of your body weight. That's 49.5 pounds. So you should be able to walking dumbbell lunge 50 pounds in each hand for 10 total reps. Okay. You should be able to squat 1.5 times body weight. So 1.5 times 150 is 225. 2 45-pound plates on each side of the barbell for 1 rep back squat as a female. Okay. Your deadlift should be 1.75 times. So that's 150 times 1.75 means that you should be able to deadlift 262.5, or we'll call it 265 pounds. Okay. If you can't do those things yet, then just keep sticking to what I just shared over this pod in terms of how many exercises, reps, sets, progressions. Keep building that motherfucker up. Okay. So if you know that you want to squat this, deadlift that, lunge this, and do this many pull-ups, then account for your diet as well. If you can do all the lifting stuff pretty easy, but you can't do a pull-up yet, guess what? You're probably too heavy. Okay. Your body weight's too heavy for you to pull up 5 times. You should be able to pull your body weight up 5 times. If you can pull your body weight up 5 times, but you can't deadlift 1.75 times body weight, you can only deadlift 1 times body weight or 1.25 or whatever. Guess what? Your back and your legs are strong. Keep focusing on these compound movements. Compound movements are multiple muscle groups. And that's what these, when you're selecting, that's why that's the beauty of being limited to only 3 exercises per day. You don't get to just pick rear delt flies or bicep curls. You have to pick big exercises that work multiple muscle groups at one go. The bent over row, which is targeting, your entire back, it's getting the entire back, and it's going to include the rear delt. The rear delt's job is to pull weights up to your chest, as a very rudimentary description. Okay, so the rear delt is going to get worked too. And guess what else is going to get worked? Your bicep. Anything that flexes the elbow joint, anything that makes your elbow bend under tension is going to work your bicep. So even though you're doing a bent over row or a 3-point row or a lat pull down, you're starting from a stretched position and you're pulling weight down or towards you from that position and bending the elbow. When you bend the elbow, you lift the weight, then you are working that muscle. So biceps are still getting worked in the lat pull down. When you're doing a back squat, a lot of people are thinking quads and glutes. Excellent. Quads and glutes are getting worked too. Guess what else is getting worked? Your back. Your back muscles are actually going to get stronger and bigger from doing a back squat, even with excellent technique. When you're doing your push ups or dips or bench press, it's not just a chest exercise. Your shoulders have to push as well, and your triceps have to push because now you're lifting weight as you straighten the elbow, opposite of the pulling I just used as an example. So now when you have to straighten the elbow to lift the weight, the tricep is going to get work. Is it going to be targeted? Are you sculpting this particular muscle? Are you isolating this? No. You don't need to, though, because you're not even strong enough to meet those strength standards that I've set. When you meet those strength standards that I've set, you have clearly put the time and dedication and effort into getting strong, and you're lean enough to still do 5 pull-ups. Excellent. This is your baseline. Once you can meet those strength numbers, 5 pull-ups, 1.5 times body weight squat, 1.75 times body weight deadlift, 1/3 dumbbell, 1/3 body weight in each hand for dumbbell walking lunges, 10 total reps. When you can do those things, now you have a great base standard of fitness. Now we can focus on sculpting. Now we can add more volume and different exercises and more sessions per week if you have the time for it, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. That is it. That is the most reliable way for you to make progress in the gym, whether you're trying to get huge, build mass, sculpt, tone, have more definition. All those terms that you associate with fitness can be achieved with what I have just outlined in this podcast for you. I hope that this is helpful. If you have any questions or you want to work with me one-to-one, shoot me a message on Instagram at Hinton Nation Coaching. And what we'll do is we'll just chat about where you're at with your fitness goals. And I want to get a better understanding about where you are and what your goals are. 1, to make sure that they're reasonable, and 2, to make sure that you're a good fit for my program, because not everybody is. I am not for everybody. My personality, different. And you have to like and trust your coach to be able to get the results, particularly trust. Because I don't even know reliably if all of my clients like me as a person, but they sure as hell trust me. So that's it. Hope that you guys have an amazing day. Let me know your biggest takeaway from this. Even if you don't want to work with me, shoot me a message. Let me know what kind of stuff you want to hear about next. What can I help you with from just listening to this podcast to make your fitness journey a little bit easier, a little bit smoother? Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll see you guys next week.